Yeah, we're moving the Florida trip back to 2040. Yeah, the year 2040. Well, I have to finish my Season 6 outtake special first, and it's got to be done before Season 5. You're not how time works! Ugh, what the... Oh, fuck. I'm Crash Thompson!
Finishing reviewing Biggles' Adventures in Time in her compound one night, Diamanda Hagan was shot dead by a gang of strident atheists. She found herself in the present, facing a reflection that was not her own and driven by an unknown force to review exploitation films from the 1930s. Her only guide on this journey is Alistair the Homeless Bastard, a drunken actor who only turns up in the Freaks review. And so Hagan finds herself leaping from reviewer to reviewer, watching ancient exploitation movies and hoping that her next leap will be the leap home.
I need to review another piece of 30s exploitation. Greetings, gentle viewers! Zombie Dog! Years before Tim Burton made Frankenweenie, we had this. Life Returns, the tale of a doctor with an unholy desire to bring people back from the dead. Although we're not talking Frankenstein shit here, this is resuscitation, which at the time was, like everything that could maybe save your loved ones' lives, utterly terrifying. Okay, we begin with To Whom It May Concern, the actual experiment of bringing Life Returns. This is a confession via motion picture. Awesome. This guy, whoever he is looking pissed off that he has to read when watching a fucking film. So this is apparently a true story, but was also based on a story by Eugene Franke and James Hagan. They wrote reality! As you can see, the actors got less important as the cast crawl went on, so after 2 minutes of credits we hit another crawl. One that's so important that you can't read all the fucking words because white text was stuck over footage of clouds. But still, this bold approach to explanatory crawls has given me an idea. I give you Star Wars, the Life Returns cut. It's a traditional close-up of bread break, and then lunch by theme.
Carbohydrates, protein,
and indigestion.
These three are scientists in college, and like all college students, they're hard at work on a revolutionary coagulation formula.
Not until we finish our coagulation formula.
The same coagulation formula that I'll do all the work for, but you men will get all the credit. Much like all those threesomes we have. The coagulation is part of an attempt to develop a viable form of resuscitation. Anyway, through the time-skipping abilities of changing the scene that the filmmakers in the 30s had only just begun to understand, they've graduated, ready to keep working on the damn coagulation, because that's where the action is.
We'll be pleased to have all three associated with us. Arnold Research Laboratories.
But we have nothing to gain by joining Arnold Research.
Nothing to gain? You mean you'd refuse the support and facilities of Arnold Research?
I think Bob is right. It's our dream, our brainchild, and we three should work it out together.
Jesus Christ, it's like a deleted Ghostbusters scene fell through a crack in time. And I'm talking about the real Ghostbuster. No, wait. The original No. I'm talking about the famous one, okay?
Personally, I like the university. They gave us money and facilities. We didn't have to produce anything. You've never been out of college. You don't know what it's like out there. I've worked in the private sector. They expect results.
So all three go their separate ways, and I'm sure the film will suffer for the loss of that woman who had breasts and the guy whose face we never saw. Dedicated to the service of mankind? Ugh, mankind. I hate those guys. This is Dr. Kendrick, and at least he still has his most important partner, his mustache. So he sets up shop working on the montage of science, and I'm glad he has so little in the way of office hours. That means more time for standing near bubbling things while they fade between shots. Anyway, some high-ups in the company are discussing their sales of edible helium.
Oh, to show a healthy profit for us, sure.
Dr. Wheeler's non-fattening salad dressing seems to have caught on with the public.
We've made it from something called alestra. Any anal leakage it causes is collected and added to the next batch. Anyway, Kendrick is brought in to see his boss because wild-eyed, science-y, antisocial Howard Starkiness only works when you're in charge of the company.
Dr. James and I have just been discussing your pet theory.
Listen, I told you I'm not going to reveal the secrets of my triangular hair. You're going to have to fire me. So the bosses have decided to pull him off the Bring the Dead Back to Life project and instead onto the Hair Regrowing Brushes project because all of science is exactly the same.
Brushes?
Yes.
We have the best hair-growing brushes on the market and bound to be a big seller.
I like how he's at least as confused as the audience by the idea of hair-restoring brushes.
You'll have to excuse me, gentlemen. I couldn't, you see. I wouldn't know how.
Damn right! The man was working on an amazing breakthrough in the field of science. You can't expect him to drop all that to work on an amazing breakthrough in the field of science. Such a thing is madness! So he's quit. Unfortunately, his mustache chose to stay with the company and later headed the Manhattan Project. Luckily for Dr. Kendrick, he kidnapped a furry brown centipede, so continuity is unaffected. Jesus Christ, the poor guy looks like Einstein after 20 years on a diet of My Chemical Romance. Still, I'm sure his wife can help him feel better.
But why can't you be a little more practical?
Practical? Practical. Down to earth. The best brushes on the market. Is that what you want? Is that what you want?
Don't hurt me! I don't even know what brushes are!
Hello, Doctor. How are you today?
Hi, Doctor! I'm annoying!
See, I dreamt I was in a huge palace, perfectly huge, and there was a man. He was dressed in a blue uniform. No, it was red. I remember now distinctly. It was red with gold epaulets. And he came up to me, and what he said... Well, if you were the doctor, I couldn't say you did.
Get out of here.
You can't talk like that to me. I'll tell my husband.
That man's a saint! I'd say much worse, you flapper-shaped collection of inanity!
Yeah!
Let me get this straight. He's a biologist, can do chemistry stuff, is a regular doctor, and a psychiatrist? No wonder he's having a fucking breakdown. Anyway, he travels back to the Victorian era to give a speech on his resuscitation ideas.
Now, in most of these cases...
The dead stay dead, but in 8 or 9% they return as zombies, and as we all know, zombies are even more terrifying than homosexuals. But doctor, what about homosexual zombies? Don't be ridiculous, they're a myth.
And I will have the formula that will start the blood circulating again, and with it breath, and with it life.
And as I assume you'll spend the allotted Q&A time laughing at me, I'm off to get a smoke. Oh hey, he ran into the one with tits from his college.
I just arrived.
Soon enough to hear the fools ridicule me.
Oh yes, the sound of the ridicule is fucking deafening. As Dr. Kendrick has walked out and no one's interested in laughing at him, how about we ignore his amazing breakthrough and just play strip poker? Oh fuck yeah!
We're your friends. We can help you.
Thank you both. I don't need any help. I must solve it alone.
Why? Because of the reason. The reason being his penis, I assume. I love the I must solve it alone trope. For writers, it's like a dramatic escape pod that lets you eject from scenes you can't think your way out of.
Making dreams come true, living tissue, warm flesh, weird science. Oh, classic blues and pots and pans.
Danny, stay out of my way, will you please?
The 1930s version of Back to the Future is depressing as fuck. So Kendrick's continuing his work in his science barn while his son works selling papers. It's a hard job, but someone's gotta do. Still, he gets a badass anti-theft dog.
Paper. Extra paper.
Oh, wait, does Kendrick have 2 sons? And why are they poor? Kendrick married an heiress. Unless the kids enjoy LARPing newsies? I suppose.
Extra paper.
Oh, come on. Put some pep into it. Don't you know how to yell? Oh, you'll never sell a paper.
Kid, I don't care if your dad's forcing you into pretend poverty for reasons the movie doesn't feel like explaining. Stop being a dick to your younger brother / friend. It's hardly his fault his voice is breaking freakishly early.
Extra paper.
Yes, that's much better. So after briefly considering just running off to Oz, Kendrick's son dutifully gets some flowers for his mother, who is currently dying of a terminal case of being off-screen. When the son got home, the house was full of people and he didn't even realize his mom was sick. His dad was off taking a dazed-looking walk. Who are all these people, and why were they in the house if no one in the family even knew she was sick? My guess is they broke in to check if she was the same woman as the heiress Kendrick married earlier, and the results were inconclusive because she was dead, and off-screen. Because Kendrick has little or no money, but plenty of time to work on experiments and or turn into Robert Smith of The Cure, he's brought into court to demonstrate that he's fit to be a father.
You realize that this hearing is to determine whether or not you are the proper guardian for your son?
Son? I thought I had 2 sons. So who the fuck is this other kid?
It has been shown that you haven't the means to take care of him. You haven't practiced for 5 years.
Kendrick married a wealthy socialite, but now can't even afford to hire a court stylist. Either she divorced him and he remarried someone poor between scenes and it's never come up, or he spent her fortune on a failed attempt to invent color. As you can see, it didn't work. He boldly uses the wild-eyed raving technique of court argumentation. Unfortunately, that rarely works anywhere except in the minds of the people who use the wild-eyed raving technique of court argumentation.
But I'll do it someday. I'll bring men back to life.
And it is the decision of this court that until you have obtained some visible means of support, your boy shall be placed in juvenile hall.
You can't take my boy away from me.
You can take the other kid. I want to say his name's Buster. So Kendrick's son, using, I guess, his newly awakened urchin powers, manages to escape from the courtroom and get back to the house on foot before the police arrive in their car.
Oh, that kid wouldn't come within a mile of this joint.
You see, that's why we took our sweet time getting here. Confidence! He grabs a few items and, most importantly, Scooter, his dog, who, after the police officers, has the worst hearing in the scene.
Scooter! Scooter! Scooter!
You right.
There's a voice that keeps on calling me down the road. It's where I'll always be.
Where do you think you're going?
Not long after starting his life on the run, the kid comes across a gang of unusually reasonable bullies. They start the scene off by throwing stones at him, refuse to allow him into their territory, and steal his shit, but when he mentions his dead mother, they forgo the usual laughter and just let him and Scooter stay in their hideout.
She's dead.
I kind of want a Stand By Me-esque epilogue where they reveal how many of these kids died on the beaches of Normandy a decade later. Anyway, she that has breasts, partner of that guy without a face, has re-entered the film and is talking to Kendrick's old boss.
Well, are you and Dr. Cornish still puttering about on that life after death rainbow?
With all the work we've done, we've never ceased our study on that theory.
It's a very high goal, but I'm afraid it's impossible. We did some work along those lines, but we gave it up.
It resulted in some bright green liquid, and all the subjects went and started eating people. Green? What's that? Oh, it's just another one of Dr. Kendrick's crazy ideas. He called it Coolor or something. Anyway, long story short, people died and Jeffrey Combs went into hiding. Back with the kids, we see that they've somehow been breeding off-screen. I can only guess that amount of food they've managed to steal has something to do with it. And through a bizarre evolutionary quirk, all the kids sound as though they're from the Bronx.
I picked that big piece out a long time ago. You would. We're trying to find a job for Danny's old man.
I got it, Danny. I saw a sign today outside of Schwartz's laboratory. They want an elevator man.
That's more like it. In a laboratory. There's where my dad would like to work. I'll go tell him. Hey, Dad.
Danny.
I sort of assumed you were dead. The conversation is cut short when Kendrick's former colleague with the breasts arrives.
Hello, Louise.
Hello, John. Aren't you going to ask me to sit down?
Well, I would, but everything is covered in a fine mix of blood and semen. The most exciting part of this scene is the realization that when Kendrick's hair goes completely white, he'll turn into an unusually tall light bulb. She's admonishing him for giving up well-paying work in the field of omniscience, because all science is the same, and more importantly, providing for his son/sons. It's now that we discover that while Kendrick has been working on the anticoagulants to be used in resuscitation, she with tits and the faceless man are working on other parts of the process. It's pretty obvious that all their work will come together in the end like a resurrection Voltron, so I'll skip to the dramatic walkout.
I'm going to tell you the truth. You're hopeless. You're nothing but a walking dream, and you can't wake up long enough to realize that your own flesh and blood needs you.
Good thing they left the door open, or that dramatic storm-off might have been a few seconds longer. And clearly those seconds are much better spent checking out the International Laboratory of German Expressionism in Science. Her meeting with Kendrick has driven the poor woman to alcoholism.
Oh, Bob, get me the alcohol, will you?
They spend most of the time criticizing how Kendrick went about his work, letting it consume him and going it alone instead of doing it as a side project in a more stable environment. Remember this, it'll be funny later on. The kid tries to hide from a guy using a miniature TARDIS and sends Scooter away. The film thinks these two things are connected somehow, but it's really just an excuse to get that most horrible of public servants, the dog catcher, involved.
Give him to me! Give him to me! Give him to me, will you? Please!
You talk a big game, kid, but how much do you really want him? I mean, that's subpar holding onto the back of a van. You had more than enough space to sit on the back step and plan some sort of an ambush for when the van stopped. Holy fuck, the kids ate one of their own!
Look at all the bones we got for Scooter.
Oh, they're gonna laugh when they hear what happened to Scooter, and then panic about how they're gonna explain this to little Johnny's parents.
They got Scooter. The dog catcher did.
I thought they were a myth!
That dirty old dog snatcher. He'd steal a baby's bottle, a rat.
Okay, now I have the image of a dog breastfeeding a baby in whoever this is his head.
Pipe down, fellas. We gotta do something about this.
I have a plan. First, we have to invent a Tommy gun that fires cream pies. Next, we take singing lessons and invest in some pedal cars. And then, after the Bugsy Malone release party, we slip out and rescue Scooter.
What's all the barking about?
They're fucking dogs. The kids decide that the best way to cover up their rescue of Scooter is by setting all the dogs free.
Boys, release the prisoners.
Cry havoc! And let's slip the dogs of the pound! Overall, it's a good plan, but it has two problems. One, they just reintroduced rabies to the local area, and... Aw, that puppy is worth all the rabies in the world. And two, in the confusion, the only dog that's not free when the dogs run off is Scooter. That's a practically superhuman level of incompetence. I'll get you, my pretty, and your moderately sized dog, too! So Scooter's been captured again. Hopefully the dogs will eat the dog catcher's faces, and outside, one of the kids has broken his leg.
He fell off the fence and hurt his leg.
I'll get my father.
I can probably convince him you're my brother. Wouldn't be the first time. So Kendrick is dragged over to take a look and instantly decides that he can't help. Maybe it's because it's out of his expertise, maybe it's because he's out of practice, or maybe it's because he's sure he's hallucinating again. They get word that Scooter is being gassed in revenge for that night's escape attempt, and Kendrick's son has had just about enough of this shit.
Scooter was dead. The dog catcher got him. You've got to do something.
He has this one chance to get an Oscar nomination, and he's gonna wring the life out of it like it was Leonardo DiCaprio and he was a motherfucking bear.
Oh, father, you are. I asked you to take a job so I wouldn't have to go to the home, and you wouldn't. I asked you to fix Petey's leg, and you couldn't. And I asked you to save Scooter, and you won't.
Please don't.
Leave me alone. I ran away from the cops so I could be with you. Well, now I don't want to be with you. And I'm going to the home. And I'm going there for good and for keeps.
You know, now that Scooter's been gassed, I have to wonder if the kid they left at the pound is okay. He seemed to fall in love with one of the dogs and climbed into a cage with it. I'm hoping the catcher just figured he was a weird-looking dog and let them die together. For ne'er was there a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Rovero. So Kendrick then remembers everything that's happened in the film, realizes it makes him look like a prick, and ends up very depressed. Over at the hideout, we see that the kids opened a time portal to 1870 and kidnapped a doctor.
Would you pass me the absorbent cotton, please?
As opposed to the laminated cotton.
Come on out, fellas.
Bye, Petey! Enjoy the pain! So Kendrick hit rock bottom and got word to the kids. Spread out and find his son while he's gonna get Scooter's body for purposes of re-fucking animation.
Will you please give me the body?
Sure. What are you going to do with it?
Honestly, you don't want to know.
We're going to try and bring him back to life.
That's great. I'm teaching these dogs to talk Spanish.
That's ridiculous. Everyone knows dogs can't roll their R's. Once Kendrick has Scooter's corpse and the kids have found Danny, they all meet up again at the university laboratory. Kendrick has managed to enlist the bee-breasted one and her partner Dr. Robert Cornish, the man until recently without a face. They're gonna bring Scooter back to life. And any resemblance between this and Frankenweenie is entirely... Coincidental? Maybe?
Dr. Cornish will endeavor to resuscitate a dog that has been killed by gas.
Should we start? Ready?
Now, you might have noticed how the footage suddenly changes between the film, where it looks like they've taken the actual scientists who work in the lab hostage and some documentary-looking footage of an actual procedure. That's because this is actual documentary footage of a procedure. Dr. Cornish was a real man who spent years working on a resuscitation formula and technique. He killed and reanimated several dogs, and this film was partly made to promote his real work.
Dr. Cornish transfers the oxygen to the dog in the medium of his own mouth.
Whew, it's like a French remake of Reanimator.
Je t'aime, oui je t'aime.
Resuscitation of the kind we do today didn't exactly exist then, and Cornish was one of the few people who worked in the field. He was never able to use his technique on a human subject, though, and both the scientific community and general public didn't react well to his work. It probably didn't help that the dogs he resurrected came back with brain damage. Now, the technique he used involved replacing the blood with a special fluid and placing the body on a seesaw to move the fluid around the body and restart the heart. When decades later, people worked out simpler ways to get better results, Cornish's work went from unpopular but groundbreaking to a curiosity or trivia question.
You can see the heart here. You can see it beating. Kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Egon Spengler does look like he's having fun, doesn't he? Anyway, remember earlier when I said Cornish and Mamaris, owner of Tits, criticizing Kendrick's choices was funny? Well, Cornish's career collapsed in the wake of the controversy caused by his experiments in reanimation, and it never recovered. In the movie, he's criticizing his future real-life self.
Wait just a minute now. The animal is entirely unconscious and he feels no pain.
The doctor has assured you, and rightly, the dog feels no pain.
Only the elation of crippling brain damage.
Dr. Cornish is the man of the hour. Dr. Stone and I are merely contributors to his fulfillment.
If only I hadn't been a douche, I could have stayed, killed her with the tits, and brought her back to life as a man. Then maybe we could have been as awesome as Dr. Cornish, who coincidentally produced the film.
Dad. Dad. You're the smallest dad in the world.
I mean, Dr. Cornish is the swellest dad in the world. So that's Life Returns. Just when you thought I was running out of what the fuckery, I unleashed the real-life Herbert West of the canine world. Like most of the 30s films I've reviewed, it's nowhere near as brilliant as the concept suggests, but the sheer curiosity value in this makes it far more important and interesting than most 1930s exploitation. The acting is fine, even the kids are far from the worst I've ever seen. The story makes an interesting springboard to learn about the real-life Dr. Cornish, who was a fascinating man and never got the credit he deserved. If he'd been supported at the time, who knows how much sooner viable resuscitation could have been developed. Overall, this is well worth a watch if you can find it, and you don't mind watching long dead men do unnatural things to the corpse of a dog. I'm Diamanda Hagan, and I have to live with that every day. Fucking juggalos. How do they work?